What is going on, everybody? Happy Thursday. We are back live here on NFL Turf Talks YouTube channel and the DSM Media Philadelphia Twitter page. Guys, do yourself a favor, do us a favor. Make sure to follow us on all social media platforms, most specifically that Twitter page I was telling you about. That's where you can be most interactive with us throughout the day. And if you want to be interactive throughout the shows with us, make sure to tap into the YouTube channel specifically, subscribe, like, share it out, whatever you got to do. Help us, help yourself. I'm one half your host tonight, Dylan Davis. To my right, my faithful co-host, Scotty. Week 14 has come and gone, my man. We've had a couple different divisional matchups. We had a couple different playoff implicated, kind of separating yourself from the rest of the crowd type of matchups to go over in week 14. Our biggest takeaways, our reactions. We're going to get into our updated top 10 power rankings, and then we'll wrap up tonight's show with some Thursday night football talk. As always, we have an NFC West battle, Rams, Niners, both still in the hunt, Scotty, not totally out of their division, obviously, with Seattle being the lead there. And then, as that last wild card, it could get interesting for both
coming off big wins.
Big Thursday night football matchup. It's fantasy football playoff time for myself, probably for you, for a lot of people out there. So I have George Kittle and Cooper Kupp going tonight, which I like and hate. I like that I have something to keep my interest in this game, but I also hate having players on Thursday night football. I hate it.
Yeah, I feel you.
It can be a blessing or a curse, man, because if they come out and Cooper Kupp gets me 18 points, okay, great way to start the weekend. Reversely, if they combine for 7 points, I got an uphill battle to fight on Sunday, man. So I hate it, but it'll definitely keep my interest a little longer in this game tonight.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm definitely, I think I got Jauan Jennings. I just was checking here really quick. I'm pretty sure I have him in at least 2 leagues. I might have him in 3. And he's been clutch, man. He's been clutch this season. He's right behind your George Kittle for like leading second on the team in receiving yards. Has caught a few touchdowns, and he actually went off against the Rams the last time they played. So hoping he can have a big game. I have him in that league. I know I have him in that league. Do I have him in a 3rd league? Am I all in on Jauan Jennings?
You might be.
I am not.
No.
Okay, so I'm not 3 for 3 here. That would be kind of wild. That would have me doubting a little bit, but no. I got him in 2 leagues, so I need something from him. That's about all I got going for me tonight. But I am excited. I'm excited to see how this matchup can play out. I have a little bit of a gut feeling on how I think it'll play out, but should be a good matchup nonetheless, man. It's an important time of football. All of these games matter, including for fantasy as well, man. So I'm happy to get into it with you.
Hell yeah. But let's take a look back in the rearview mirror, back into week 14. And obviously, because of my stupid internet issues over the weekend, we weren't able to discuss what took place on Thursday night. So let's do that now.
Yes,
all the way back 7 days ago, a big matchup, especially for us Eagles fans, even though we weren't involved, took place in the NFC North. The Packers and Jordan Love went to take on Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions. Dug themselves a little bit of a hole in the first half, down 10 points at halftime. They rally back in the 3rd quarter, and it's a game down to the wire in which the Detroit Lions walk off with a game-winning field goal, 34-31 in this matchup. Jared Goff, 32 of 41, 283, 3 touchdowns. Believe he threw a pick in this game. Josh Jacobs finds the end zone 3 times last week for the Packers, man. And it's just a weird spot for me when I look back on this game 7 days ago, because I think the theme of this show throughout some of these matchups is kind of which teams have separated themselves, right? In terms of in the hunt, in terms of within their division, who's real, who really shouldn't be taken all that seriously. And I look at this Green Bay Packers team, and as much as they showed that they could hold their own against the Detroit Lions, as much as they fought and competed in this game, only losing in the final 3 seconds by 3 points, it just felt like you were punching above your weight class the whole time in this one. And now they're 0-2 against Detroit on the year. They have a 3-game lead on the division. So the Packers are officially cooked from any sort of talk for the NFC North Championship. They're going to have to get in with a wild card, which we know they will most likely. But though I look back on this game and I go, Green Bay can be fun. Jordan Love, the way they spread the ball around, even though I'm not bought into all the different names, right? Dontavion Wicks and Jaden Reed and Tucker Kraft. And I'm just not bought into all the different names. All right. But they do. They spread the ball around. They make plays. Josh Jacobs is third in rushing this year. It just felt like if you couldn't get that one, you're not going to get to Detroit this year.
Man, we feel differently about Green Bay, man. I didn't leave the game feeling that way, man. I felt actually, I won't say that I'm more confident in Green Bay, but they did. They held their own on the road against the Detroit Lions. I get it. It's a divisional rival. It is a game that they absolutely needed if they wanted to win their division. And it's not to say that like they wouldn't lose to the Detroit Lions again, but the Detroit Lions are arguably the best team in football right now. And they lost to them by 3 points. Once again, just a few suspect situations in this game favoring the Lions at the end, specifically for Amon-Ra, clearly pushes off on that crucial first down catch. So I look at the Packers, man. They did what they do. They run the football. It's the Lions that are going to score points. They were able to get into the 30s with them. Of course, it's not horseshoes. It's not like, oh, we were so close. I'm sure they're not, taking on positive points out of this game and losing, but I just didn't leave the game feeling worse about the Packers.
I don't think you should feel worse about them. I'm just saying this isn't an outer division game, right? Like you've already got a shot in Lambeau earlier in the year. You failed. You lost by double digits. Now you got them again. And my point is, if you weren't going to get them in this matchup, are you going to get them again? And that's what I mean by separating. Detroit separated a little bit more from Green Bay. It's not that much of a knock on Green Bay themselves. I just look at this and I go, do I consider Green Bay in the same tier as I consider the two being the Eagles and the Lions? And do I think they could potentially pull off an upset?
Yeah, that's fair.
I look back and I go, I don't think so.
See, I do think they could pull an upset. I do think they can. But that's not to say that they're in the same tier as those two teams. That's what would make it an upset. I do think the Packers are one of the select teams in the NFC that if the other team is having a bad day, they can be that team that will send them home. We've seen the Goff 5 interception game. We've seen Jalen Hurts with 108 passing yards. Like they can beat teams, but I know we've felt differently kind of all season about the Packers. I feel like even going into that first matchup with them on Friday Night Football in Brazil. But I don't know the Lions. I do give them some credit here, getting the W at home. I don't know, man. It's kind of like we went into the game. We picked the Green Bay Packers on Thursday Night Turf Talk, right? So it's not to say that we expected the Lions to win, but they did do what they're supposed to by winning at home, even if it's 3 points. So I don't know. I kind of left the game unfazed, but other than the fact of how much it significantly impacted the Eagles and their ability to get the 1 seed. That's definitely where it impacted me the most. Just my perception on how this season is going to play out, I feel.
Look, I think I look at Green Bay through this kind of lens. I think they are lesser than the Eagles and the Lions. I think they are more than the
Vikings.
They're 0-1 against the Vikings this year, so we'll have to see. My point I'm getting to is you lost to the Eagles, you've lost to Detroit twice, and you lost to the Vikings. Not to say that they don't have any good wins.
I see what you're getting at, though.
They beat the Rams in LA earlier this year. They beat, I forgot the 49ers didn't have, that's the game they didn't have Purdy. That's what I was thinking of. But they beat San Fran, and they beat the Texans with a walk-off field goal. My point is you only get so many cracks to show that you belong up here. And you're essentially 0-4 at those attempts. So at what point or another with 4 weeks left are you going to show me otherwise? They get to play Minnesota again. Minnesota 11-2. It's going to be a big game for them. in terms of obviously seeding in the wild card and all, because Minnesota or Detroit, whoever doesn't win that division, is going to be one of those three wild card teams. So it's going to be big for them. I need Green Bay to finish the job against one of the upper echelon teams for me to be like, they can do it, right? But
that's fair. That's
nonetheless. Fair. How did it make you feel about Detroit, man? As an Eagles fan, at least. Because we know Green Bay has a great offense, and I get that. But I think you and I were texting about this game, throughout this game, kind of just saying, man, are these two defenses serious? And I understand, all games take on different characteristics, right? It's just the flow of a game. Some nights, the quarterbacks are just on, the offenses are firing on all cylinders. It's just that type of game. But I'm not sure I can recall either defense getting a stop in the second half, at least in the final quarter and a half.
Yeah.
Every time Green Bay marched back and either they took the lead. What did we go up 24 or 22-19, something like that. Green Bay took a lead. And then from that point on, they went bang, 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 back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I'm sitting here when you watch this Detroit Lions defense, Scotty, is that can you look at that and go, that's what holds them back in your lens, in your eyes?
Yeah, I think out of everything that's involved with their team, I think the defense is what I would ultimately look back on. And that's what I would predict would cost them in the end. I do look at them when, versus the Eagles, and I think who could get more stops. I do think the Eagles defense would be able to get more stops against the Lions offense. So that's, I would have to agree with it. I just, once again, it didn't. Let me put it this way. If the Lions played like that against the Eagles, the Eagles would beat the Lions for sure. But at the same time, once again, Green Bay, I just feel like them putting up 30 points on the Lions is just, it's not that significant of an impact for me, man. I think at the end of the day, if it's the Lions, it's just a good W. Do you know what I mean? It's just a good W against a divisional opponent. But yeah, their defense throughout this season, I think, has shown that it has quite a few cracks. I do think one thing to throw in there, something they were reporting on during this game. Apparently, Aiden Hutchinson could potentially come back some point in this season. So that would be a significant upgrade or addition at some point towards the end. Obviously, you would have to get work back in, but we'll see how it goes.
Didn't this man's leg snap in half?
They got miracle doctors now, Dylan, don't you know?
I got breaking news for everybody. Aiden Hutchinson's not playing football this season.
I don't know. They say, man. Maybe the NFC Championship.
They're trying to keep the spirits real high in Detroit. Aiden Hutchinson's leg was facing 18 different directions. Aiden Hutchinson's not playing football in the same calendar year, and nonetheless, 4 months later. But
you can return for the Super Bowl, man. That's the plan.
I would say this. So what I'm gathering from you is the way this game, the outcome of this game, and how we got that outcome, a 3-point walk-off field goal, really didn't move the bar or change your opinion on either of those two teams, which is ultimately fair. The last thing I kind of want to say about it, and it rubs me the wrong way, and I guess, when you have success and when things work out, you're looked at as a genius, and we've seen the other aspect of that earlier in the year with coaching aggressiveness and getting wrong with it. But I'm gonna say this now to you, and I think I actually said it a week ago to you, and I'm gonna repeat myself now. Let Dan Campbell continue with that bullshit. Go ahead. Keep doing what you're doing. Didn't it play a major factor in the NFC Championship game last year, Scotty?
That was crazy, man.
I believe it did. And go ahead. That's all I'm going to say. Keep doing what you're doing and see if you keep getting away with it, especially when the moments and the lights get brighter and bigger. Go ahead. Because what he did the other night, he was being praised for it. The balls on Dan Campbell. I get he's a likable guy. He's rah-rah. He's tough. He'll bite your ear off. Keep doing what you're doing and pull that dumbass shit out in the NFC Championship game or in a divisional round of a close ball game. Go ahead.
I think he now that you say that, I mean, he might be the one major concern or the number one concern for the Detroit Lions. And it's funny that the way people talk about Sirianni, man, it is crazy.
No. It is looked at as Dan Campbell is up here. He is coach of the year caliber. He is the man. They love him. They stay aggressive. They stay true. And I'm not like, my thoughts on what Nick has done, but are they not one and the same? They just have slightly different personalities. Nick talks about watering flowers. Dan Campbell talked about biting your ear off. That's how they both came in to their separate organizations.
Wide receiver versus tight end philosophies, right? Like
all the same. They stay true. They stay aggressive. One guy gets punished for it. He's what's going to hold his team back from a Super Bowl. However, the very thing they're praising him for kicked them out of the playoffs last year.
Yeah. People forget about that, though.
That's all I'm going to say.
And their defense also, right? Their defense also got them kicked out of the postseason last year. And we'll see, man. We'll see as the season finishes out. This game, it didn't move me too much, but we'll see, man. They got the Bills up next. The Bills are coming off a tough loss. So it's going to be a huge matchup between these two.
Absolutely.
And that one's in Detroit as well. Lucky them.
Yeah, that's what we pointed that out, I think, a week or two ago. They play Minnesota at home. They play
the last
Buffalo
week of the season.
Home. They play someone else, but in a dome. Like they don't have to go to any northern, windy, cold, snowy type of team.
They do go to Chicago, but
Chicago. Yeah, but right, Chicago. But what my point is, as much as that kind of annoys me, because like, why couldn't you play in Buffalo, especially when we're fighting for the 1 seed? I'm kind of sitting back like, okay, like I like that because they're not going to play in any of those conditions. We had the question marks about California boy, right? Sunshine, playing in the cold. He's all warm. He's in his dome until he might have to travel somewhere. But again, if they get the 1 seed, everyone has to come to him. So
yeah,
we'll kind of see how it plays out, man. Speaking of NFC playoff standings and positioning, we had a matchup going down between the AFC South or the NFC South, Atlanta Falcons and the NFC North, Minnesota Vikings. And well, this one was just not close. 42-21, absolute fucking thumping, 21 points. It was, so put it that way, it was tied going into the fourth quarter of this ball game until Sam Darnold and the Vikings took completely over. Kirk Cousins, again, without a touchdown, 2 more interceptions this week. Sam Darnold reversely 347, 5 tutties, no picks. Aaron Jones runs one in.
MVP performance.
With 3, Jefferson with 2. But yeah, man, I think I saw a stat at this one. This was the 5th or 6th straight game Kirk Cousins has not thrown a touchdown pass in and turned the football over in, or combination of the two. So
it's crazy. I
mean, yeah, you would
he might get benched.
You would probably think that would be a team where people talk about the passing game, but they don't. And then, it's whatever. And they gave him a lot of money this offseason. But yeah, he might, man, because the Atlanta Falcons, who were supposed to, right? Were they not supposed to, with the addition of Kirk Cousins and what they added on the defensive side, Scotty, were they not supposed to win the NFC South? Were they not? I don't want to say run away.
I thought so.
I don't want to say run away with Mike Evans and at the time Chris Godwin and Baker and how they played last year and won the division last year. But were they not supposed to run away with this division? He was supposed to be the big difference maker, right? 6-7. Luckily for them, they're a game out of their division lead because of all the injuries with the Bucs and how bad the rest of their division is. So they're not out of it. However, I watched this Atlanta Falcons team play football. I watch Kirk Cousins operate, and I just pray. I pray, man, that they somehow get in and we end that's our match. Somehow, some way, that team
they beat us, though, man.
I know. It's fucking It is fucking absurd that quarterback went on that drive and beat this defense. That happened this year to the 11-2 Philadelphia Eagles, but it did. The Falcons, stink. It's as politely as I could put it. Kirk Cousins is an absolute fucking train wreck. Well, This is my point about passing numbers, okay? To kind of wrap up my spiel and throw it over to you. Everyone, I want to see Jalen throw for this. I want to see Jalen throw for that. Kirk Cousins threw for 344 yards, Scotty. How'd that work out for Atlanta? Threw for 344. I thought that's good quarterback play.
Come on, man. We just want more than 108 passing yards still. Come on. We just want more than 108 passing yards.
That happened one time.
You got to let it go. Dylan. You got to let it go.
We'll talk about it tomorrow.
You got to let it go. 108 passing yards, man. We can't write home about it. It's not great. But to your point, man, Kirk Cousins, a guy that actually is struggling right now. Last 4 games, to your point, what is 6? My goodness, 8 interceptions total. 8 interceptions, no passing touchdowns. So very well could see Michael Penix come in and play for Kirk Cousins here shortly. I know they were talking about it over the weekend going into this game. And I'm sure this just pushed it even further.
Fan, how could you not want that move to be made?
Yeah.
Right now.
But let me ask you this. How does this make you feel about the Vikings, man? Sam Darnold. Like, are the Atlanta Falcons defense, is that just trash? Or what is this?
Look, it is a hell of a performance. You 22-28, 347, 5 tutties, protected the ball, 28 second half points,
28 touchdowns this season, 10 interceptions, 28-10.
Don't get me wrong, he's been very, very good. This game does nothing. This game does nothing for me. Beating the Falcons that way at home does nothing for me. Now, if they compete again for the second time this year with the Lions, because remember they almost beat the Lions earlier on in the season. I think that was their first loss of the season to go to 5-1. If they compete with the Lions again, if they play the Packers and beat the Packers again, then I mean Minnesota is I'll say it, they're a good team. They're a very good team. They're not going to win the NFC.
They've got
a very good football team.
They've got some nice tests down the stretch, man. They go to Seattle. Seattle, by the way, won 4 straight right now, I believe. Yeah. They go to Seattle to take on them in 2 weeks. They get the Packers at home and then go to Detroit to end the season, like you said. So they will get tested as the season goes on, but I don't know, man. Sam Darnold, when you can deliver like that, I get it. There's levels to defense for sure. But Jordan Addison and obviously Justin Jefferson, they are a nice duo to have there. And then you mix in some Aaron Jones. It sounds all right. To your point, there are levels in the NFC though. And I don't know if this impressed me more about Minnesota, or I think in reverse, it actually just made me a little bit more aware of how not good the Atlanta Falcons are. So, yeah, to your point, I think it told me more about Atlanta than it did Minnesota at the end of the day. But great performance by Sam Darnold. Definitely opened my eyes a little bit more, I would say, to be fair to him. I'll keep my eyes on it, right? Because if this man, finishes the season with 35 and 11 interceptions, or 36 and 11, or 36 and 12, like that's a monster season for Sam Darnold. For real.
And what if the Vikings win 13 or 14 games?
They got who is it? JJ McCarthy? Is that the guy that
from Michigan? What do you do? Tears ACL or his Achilles in training camp?
Yeah. He was supposed to be.
So that's supposed to be the guy. Yeah, Sam Darnold was not supposed to really be in this position at the moment. But here we are, man. Moving on to that team you just talked about with the Seahawks. They go into Arizona and they beat Kyler 30-18, 17 first quarter points. Talk about getting out to a fast start on the road. 8-5 now, 5-1 on the road this year. Cardinals 6-7 now. The Seahawks give themselves a 2-game advantage over the Arizona Cardinals. And I believe, let me just check real quick. I don't want to So, yeah, 2-game lead over the Cardinals and the Niners and a 1-game lead over the LA Rams. Why is that important? Because the Rams and the Niners play each other tonight, man. So the Niners, we'll get into that later on. The Niners probably need it more statistically because it would kind of almost put a fork in them if they're unable to come away with a win tonight. But the Rams, if you want to stay steady, if you want to keep pace, you need it as well. But this game, man, Geno versus Kyler, what do you make of this win for Seattle? Like you said, it is their 4th in a row. I believe Kenneth Walker was out. Yeah, he was. And Charbonnet went absolutely berserk in this one.
Yep.
Geno run the football, 24 of 30, very efficient. What do you make of the Seattle team?
They're dangerous, man. I think that's what opened my eyes in this game. It did tell me a little bit about Arizona. I think we can kind of throw them out the door a little bit just with some of these performances lately. It's not to say they aren't better than what we thought they would be, but they also aren't this team that is going to like make some noise in the postseason or anything like that. So I think we did get a little bit of I got a little bit ahead of myself as the season was going on, but they've dropped a few games in a row now where they've had a chance to kind of prove themselves. Seattle, on the other hand, I think they are a team that is kind of just dangerous. They're volatile. And what I mean by that, like their defense is solid. They're a sturdy group on that side of the ball. You go into Arizona and win this game, right? This important game for the division. They can run the football. You mentioned Charbonnet. When Kenneth Walker is in, he's one of the best in the league. He's very productive. You go to the wide receiver group, and it's something that's been talked about. They have a nice trio. Then you throw in the Noah Fonts of the world into that group. So you got DK Metcalf. JSN is having kind of a breakout season this year. And then, of course, Tyler Lockett has kind of fallen to the wayside a bit, but he's still a guy that can hurt you if you fall asleep on him. So I think this team is very dangerous. I think they're very Geno dependent in the sense of Geno can be the guy that holds this team back, turning the football over, the decision making, right? But there are times where he could go for 300 yards, multiple touchdowns, use his legs to get extra, extra scramble opportunities, maybe even just pick up some yards. So they are very volatile. When Geno is on, they can beat some good solid teams. When he's off, though, they can be at the bottom of the NFC for all we see. But they've proven to be consistent.
Yeah,
is what I'm trying to say here. So we'll see how it goes, man. But they have a good sense of identity. You have go-to guys in the receiving game with DK and JSN, and you have a monster backfield with those two backs. So we'll see where they go, man. They got a tough schedule coming up, quite honestly. They get the Packers this week, and then they go to Minnesota, I believe, and then finish out with the Rams. So, and
I think the one thing we haven't really discussed in this whole in this game specifically is a part of Seattle's 4-game winning streak is beating the Cardinals twice.
Yeah, facts.
Cardinals lost both times against the Seattle Seahawks, and this is why you gotta love sports and you gotta love what we do on this podcast, man, because things change, storylines change, narratives change, opinions change. And just not too long ago, when the Cardinals, before this 3-game skid they've been on, we were talking about Kyler Murray and protecting the football. Well, not only did Kyler throw 2 picks in this important game, Kyler's thrown 5 over this 3-game winning streak. 1 3 weeks ago against Seattle, losing streak, excuse me. 1 against Seattle 3 weeks ago, 2 against the Vikings, 2 against the Seahawks this past week. Reversely, Geno, we were talking about that, TD to interception ratio earlier on. It's not pretty. It's 14-12 at the moment for Geno Smith. Hasn't thrown one each of the last 2 games. Very efficient each of the last 2 games, and went into Arizona and had a touchdown with no interceptions. That's a pretty big factor in a divisional game like that. So things change, narratives change. But yeah, Kyler Murray, once upon a time, man, 3 weeks ago, we were talking about, why isn't he getting the recognition? Look how well he's protecting the football. 5 picks over this 3-game losing streak for Kyler and the Cardinals. So things are They're not that pretty right now in
They're
Arizona.
a weird team too, man, because like where do you go? Do you move on from Kyler? You just extended James Conner.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they should move on from Kyler. It's not like that. I'm just saying like the complacency of it all, right? You bring in Marvin Harrison Jr. And I almost feel like he's underperforming. Like the fact that he's not like the runaway, offensive rookie of the year with how everything's transpired. But it'll be interesting to see how they move forward because this division is ever changing. It feels like it could be anybody's division each and every year, the way these teams change out in the NFC West. So we'll see how they kind of move forward there. But no more Jonathan Gannon. It's coach of the year talk. We must have lost Dylan. Martian, you see this shit, man? Nah, Jonathan Gannon was never in coach of the year conversations, Martian. Not in my book at least, but let's move on. We'll wait for Dylan to hop back in here. Oh, that was a quick one. That was a quick one, Dylan. Not so quick. Not so quick. Let's talk this Rams Buffalo Bills game. I think it's a good way for us to kind of lead into power rankings, and then we'll finish out with Thursday Night Football as Dylan gets back in here. But in this game, yeah, I spoke too soon. Always do. It's the same with this show. I make these predictions based on what I've seen, and then these teams never follow trends. They don't care about the stats. They don't care about the streaks of how many times this prop is hit. It doesn't matter. It's all completely random, just like Dylan's internet connection. I know he's fuming right now. That's why it's hilarious, but I don't mean to make fun of his demise there. But looking at this shootout out in the LA between the Buffalo Bills and the LA Rams, I'm curious on you guys' thoughts out there, D-Rab, Martian, anybody else out there that's watching. Did this hurt your perception of the Buffalo Bills, or do you just take this game on the chin for if you're the Bills and accept it as a loss in LA to a team that needs it more? Welcome back, Dylan. We don't even need to discuss it if you don't want to.
Might happen again. I don't know.
But I was ultimately talking about the Buffalo Bills and the LA Rams here, man. And I was asking the crowd. I'll ask it to you as well. Did this hurt your perception of the Buffalo Bills, or is this just a volatile Rams team at home that needs a win more?
I don't think it hurt the Bills too much, right? Or maybe even at all, because the week before they clinched the division. And now, obviously, job shouldn't be done for them. You're still fighting with the Chiefs. You beat the Chiefs not too long ago. Still fighting for the Chiefs for home field throughout. You know that you would want people coming up to Buffalo throughout the AFC playoffs. So it's a game you don't want to overlook. It's a game you don't want to drop, but you're coming off that high of solidifying your division title, right? And then you head into LA, travel across the country against the Rams team, who, let's be honest, man, Josh Allen, I mean, this sucks, right? 6 touchdowns.
Did he wrap up the MVP?
Yards. I mean, with that performance, even in a loss, probably. I mean, that was ridiculous. But 342 passing, 117 rating. He was fucking phenomenal. He played like the MVP of the league. It would make you question Buffalo's defense a tiny bit. A little bit,
right? Yeah.
I will say this, just let's also give Matthew Stafford credit, right? That's all this was. I mean, Matthew Stafford was fucking unbelievable. 23 of 30. That's it right there. 23 of 30, 320, protected the ball, 2 tutties. Puka goes absolutely berserk.
Where does Puka rank
up with big plays
in the NFL right now, wide receiver wise? Where does he rank? Because he's nice. Like, he's opened my eyes. He's doing it again this season, even with the injuries.
The thing with Puka is he's dynamic. Like, he doesn't do one thing incredibly well. He does a lot of things very well. He's physical. He's hard to bring down. He's a great route runner. He's got great hands. He's athletic. He can hit you with a go ball. Like, he's got speed. He's the total package. I'd have to go through and like think and try to take some of like my bias, like with some veteran players out of it.
Is he better than Smitty, for example? Is he a tier above him?
I think so. I think so. I think, like, I don't know that I would say Puka Nacua is top 10. I'd have to go through it. But is Puka Nacua top 12, 13? And maybe he's top 10. I don't know.
And if you're top 12 or 13, you're top 10. You know what I mean? Like, basically.
Right. Like, you're all kind of
you're in that
together.
group.
Like, I'll say, like, I'll tell you this. Oh, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Is he the number one on the LA Rams?
When I watch the Rams, it feels like it. That's the way I'll put it. I'm not saying he is. It feels like it.
Getting a little bit older. He dealt with more injuries again this year, so I get it. It's time for the younger guy to take a little bit more of a focal point in the offense. The fact that you have both of them is ridiculous for the Rams.
Yeah.
But it feels like it. And I think that's telling you all you need to know when heading into the season. I think we would agree Cooper Kupp, top 10 wide receiver.
Yeah.
Well, if the guy across from him feels like the number one on his team, is that guy one of the game's best receivers? Yeah, probably. I mean, if you strip away Jettas, if you strip away Jamar, if you strip away AJ, if you strip away CD, I mean, who else are we throwing in? Tyreek. Who else are we throwing in that conversation? Diggs, not anymore.
No. It's wild, man. Jerry Jeudy is actually 4th in receiving this year. JSN, Terry McLaurin's up there. It's actually a wild bunch, man.
I mean, I would say Puka Nacua is probably top 12 range with the upside of being like a top 6 receiver in the National Football League.
Like, I guess where I would put Puka right now, I would probably put him with like the Nico Collins of the world. Because I think Nico Collins is he's been banged up this year as well, but he's top 12, top 15? Top 18, excuse me. But he is ahead of Puka nonetheless. But I would put them in like the same category.
Amon-Ra, you would put in the top, right?
Top 10, yeah.
So Amon-Ra,
consistency.
Jettas, Tyreek, Jamar, AJ, CD.
From there, I think it's open, man. Unless we're forgetting somebody.
You got to include Mike Evans still, right? Pre-injury.
Yeah.
But then you're talking about Mike Evans. You're talking about Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. You're like
George Pickens is having a monster year too, man.
Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, they're kind of being hindered by all the Jets drama and shit, but they're there.
The wide receiver position is absolutely stacked. Yeah, honestly, if you look at the names right now on the list, I mean, Brock Bowers is top 5 receiving this year as a rookie. Terry McLaurin is top 10. JSN, he's a guy we're going to have to keep an eye on, man, because he is nasty. He has monster games.
I put, tell me if I'm wrong here. I put JSN in my starting lineup for the playoffs this weekend over Smitty with everything going on, Steelers defense, how JSN's been balling. Because I had JSN for a while, and then I was like, I just had a feeling against Carolina. I put money on Jalen passing yards. So I put Smitty in. Smitty scored. Like, Smitty probably had the best receiving game that we had, but it was it wasn't good. And then JSN catches like a 20-yard TD, and he's going for 80, 85 weekly. So,
I play the Packers, man. They can put up some points against the Packers, obviously.
I think is that Sunday Night Football too?
Yeah, actually. That's a good one.
Let me ask you that. I know we're going to move on in a second, but Jordan Love, do I stick with Jordan Love instead of Kyler this week? I think Kyler plays New England.
So Seattle has the number 10 pass defense. I'm looking at it right now. But I do just feel like it doesn't matter with the Packers in the sense like Jordan Love just puts up numbers. Will they be able to run the football? Will Josh Jacobs take up the ball?
Right.
It's hard to say with the way these teams have played this year, but I would honestly lean Jordan Love over Kyler Murray just because Jordan Love, like the Packers need these wins just as bad as the Seahawks do. So if anything, they're just going to go at it in this game, I would say.
The issue is I have Marvin Harrison Jr. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword of with playoff time now is, well, in order for one of my starting wide receivers to have success, he needs to get the ball from somewhere. So if he's going to have success, I would have Kyler. But if he doesn't, then I'm double whammying myself negatively if the Cardinals just completely shit the bed. Now that's 2, whereas, all right, maybe Harrison only gets me 45 receiving yards, but I have Jordan Love on Sunday Night Football. So that's kind of the dilemma.
The thing is, like Marvin Harrison Jr., he could score 2 touchdowns and Kyler still have under 200 passing yards. You know what I mean? So, like, I don't know. I it's almost like I'm on the Jordan Love train, but like I am actually starting Jordan Love in a league of my own. So
all right, I'll ride. That's all I needed to hear.
Just to give you an idea. But D-Rap said he's starting Purdy over Jordan Love. Which
Purdy tonight, I don't hate it. The Rams give up.
Like he has to. He has to put up numbers.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're talking about missing CMC and what's his face? Who
Jordan Mason, I think is Jordan.
And like Gershendo, whatever his name is supposed to play tonight. He's hurt or has an ankle injury or something. So you'd have to imagine they're going to throw the football tonight. Especially like with how Deebo Samuel's been acting and responding to reporters. you would think that's how AJ Brown sounded. Like that's like the vision you get from the rumors here.
Not talked about at all, though.
But it's not. But it's just funny, man. Should we get into power rankings before we wrap up with tonight's show?
Yeah. I think we're good on the rest of the games, man.
I mean, the only other thing is the Chiefs.
Yeah,
Chiefs win again with
they just keep winning the same way that they have been.
Well,
winning,
a little hey, a little different. Doink the one in to win. Doink the one in. Slightly different.
They're finding ways, Dylan. They're finding ways.
That they are.
12-1 team right there, man.
Say okay. Are they 12-1 or 13-1 now?
Let me double check. 13 games total. What? 12-1.
Oh yeah. What am I thinking? My math was way off. Not way off, but like I'm sitting here like, oh, Eagles are 11-2. I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking, but regardless, 12-1, tied with the Lions for the best record, and they just keep getting shit to go their way. It's pretty much that simple, man. But let's get into our power rankings before we get into Thursday Night Football and get on out of here. Pretty simple, man. I think mine again has stayed the same, maybe altered slightly. I'll run through it for you very quickly. I have at number 10, I still have the Houston Texans sitting there. And at number 9, I have the LA Chargers. I just think right now with Harbaugh at the helm, with the way Herbert's doing a little bit more with less, I know they're coming off of a loss, but again, how and to whom and everything involved. I think I like the Chargers at this spot a little bit more than I do the Texans. Both 8-win teams, I believe, at the moment. So, yeah, the Texans sitting at 10. I have the Chargers at 9. Coming in at number 8, I have the Baltimore Ravens. Having a late bye was very weird for them to place them because I actually think they slipped a spot from last week. I think I had them at 7 heading into last week. I'm dropping them now, even though they didn't play. They couldn't defend themselves. But I had the Minnesota Vikings ahead of them now at number 7. Am I sold on the Vikings in the sense that they are a contender? On the fact that they, could potentially be representing the NFC. No, they're an 11-win team, but I don't think they are an excellent, tier 1 11-win team. With that said, that win was impressive. Sam Darnold's, play has been impressive. And they are 11-2, a game out of their division lead with the Detroit Lions, who they play against. So I had the Vikings at 7. Coming in at number 6, I have the Packers, which sounds weird considering how we started the show. And I talked to you about my view of the Packers. I think that should just tell you that I'm still not bought into Sam Darnold and the Vikings. So I think the Packers are a better team. I would trust Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur and that defense a little bit more in crunch time in Lambeau. If it comes down to that, then I do Sam Darnold in a playoff spot this year. So I have the Packers slightly ahead of their division rival. Now we get to our top 5. I think this team has newly entered my top 5 for the first time. That is the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it's funny, what did I say to you a couple weeks ago or just a couple minutes ago? How narratives change so quickly. We loved the Steelers a few weeks ago. Then they had an ugly loss to Jameis Winston, and we were questioning, what is this team? Conditions aside, both teams had a play in it. You can't lose that game. Well, now they've won 2 straight. Russell Wilson looks fantastic. That defense looks fantastic. They're first in turnover differential, first in turnovers created, and Russ is protecting the ball and doing a lot with it right now. I think the Steelers are a top 5 team in football. Coming in at number 4, I had the Buffalo Bills. I know it sounds crazy with how Josh Allen is playing. I know I had them against the Chiefs. I know the Chiefs did not win in nice fashion. At the end of the day, even though the Bills did beat the Chiefs head-to-head a few weeks ago, there is a 2-game difference. The Kansas City Chiefs are 12-1. That's the bottom line. I think they're neck and neck. If they met in the playoffs, again, I'm not betting against Pat, but I would probably lean Bills in that scenario. But that's how close those 2 teams are going to be for me come playoff time. And then I have the Chiefs at 3, like I said. And then our top 2 has stayed the same. I had the Eagles at 1. I had the Lions at 2. Lions coming off of a very impressive win last Thursday over the Green Bay Packers, who are obviously much, much better than the Carolina Panthers, who the Eagles squeaked by and have had some drama over this past week. But I think that drama and this pressure is going to turn into diamonds for the Philadelphia Eagles, and they will continue to be the best team and most complete team, balanced team in the National Football League.
I like it, man. I like it. My list this week, it's shifted a little bit. It's very fluid. But let me go ahead and get into it, man. I went with number 10. I went with the LA Chargers, even though they lose to the Kansas City Chiefs. Like you said, it's the fashion in which you lose. I like what Harbaugh's doing there as well. I think he's getting the best out of Justin Herbert, and I think they're making the most of it, even without those notable weapons that they've been working with in the past. At number 9, man, I went with the Seattle Seahawks. I mentioned they've been playing some really good football of late. They're on a 4-game winning streak right now. I'm wondering, did we lose Dylan again? We did. That's all right. I'm going to finish out strong here. I can't help but laugh. I'm sorry. So Seahawks, number 9, 4-game win streak. They've been impressive, been able to take care of divisional issues along the way. So I like what they're doing. Mentioned, they're a very volatile team. If Geno's playing some good football, they're very dangerous. Number 8, I went with the Baltimore Ravens. They were on a bye week this week, right? There's no real reason for them to drop or move up. I still think they are one of the top contenders in the NFL. I do have to recognize that they've fallen short in certain matchups down the stretch here, to the which of why they're 8-5, right? So they're at number 8. They're going to stay there. We'll see how they look this week. Number 7, I went with the Green Bay Packers, 9-4. Obviously, a tough loss in Detroit against the Detroit Lions. Obviously took it to the end of the game, took Dan Campbell to the wire. I like what the Packers possess, man. Defense, they have a solid defense for my money. I know they give up 34 points to the Lions. It's the Lions. They have a top offense. You knew that game was going to be a little high scoring, but they can run the football. In the cold weather, I think they're prepared if it gets down to that type of business in the postseason. So I think the Packers are also a dangerous team. Just fell on the wrong end of this one against a better team at the end of the day. The Lions are arguably the best in the NFL. Number 6, I went with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously been able to put together 2 very productive and successful wins over the last couple weeks, just to kind of get back on the nod after that tough L to the Cleveland Browns a few weeks ago. Number 5, I went with the Minnesota Vikings. I was impressed, man. I was moved by Sam Darnold's performance, but I don't know if it's more Sam Darnold or if it's more just recognizing what Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison are capable of as a duo out there as wide receivers, along with the defense that can be stingy. Number 4, I went with the Buffalo Bills, similar to you, Dylan. Similar reasons, man. 10-3 is 10-3, 12-1 is 12-1. I know they beat them head to head. That was a couple weeks ago now. Josh Allen is playing some great football. He's doing it all. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, though, man. When you get to the postseason, are you going to need Josh Allen to score 6 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns the week before, catching one through the air, running one in, and passing them like the week before that? So he is playing at an MVP level. I have to give the nod to the Chiefs, especially from the defensive perspective. And I will even take it a step further, man. I think in the postseason, if these teams were to match up, and I know they beat them already, I would still kind of lean the Chiefs after seeing that Buffalo performance, but we'll see. We'll see if things change by the end of the season. This is where it does get interesting. This is where I say my list is fluid, man. I did move the Eagles down to number 2 after that performance against Carolina.
I can respect it.
It's not to even say that the Eagles had this horrible performance overall. Mm-hmm. It's just to say I was more impressed with the Lions' win over the Packers, a better team. But I think it more just points to how close these teams are for me, that I think it'll be week to week as the season goes on. And it will be Eagles kind of a judging contest
this weekend. Well,
if the Eagles go and beat Pittsburgh, but Bills,
yeah,
it depends, man. It's going to be interesting, right? It's going to be interesting because you could have the Eagles are at home against the Steelers, so you can't lose that game and somehow get ahead of the Lions, in my opinion. So for me, at least. But if both teams were to lose, to your point, things would maybe stay the same.
This is the week, man.
It's interesting.
I believe we need 2 games flipped. I don't know what the tiebreakers come down to. I forget what it is. But if we are both at 12-2 after this week, I still think the Lions had the tie-breaking edge. But this is the week to get it there, right? 4 weeks left. If they lose to the Bills at 425 while we're beating the Steelers at 425, and we finish week 14 12-2 or week 15 12-2, 3 games to go.
It helps the Bills are coming off a loss too, man. Fired up. They need
1,000%. 1,000. Because if you're the Bills, like, congratulations, you won your division. Are you just like if you lose this game, where do you start to slide 1 through 4?
You going to Pittsburgh to play them? Right? Like, yeah, that's what they have to look at ultimately. So it'll be interesting, man. I'm hopping on the Josh Allen train this week. It was the Packers last week. Now it's the Josh Allen train this week, man. But they got a schedule down the stretch that is there's a chance, man. There's a chance the Eagles could get that number 1 seed.
Well, especially because then after this week, for the Eagles at least, it's Washington, which again, 8-win team, still a playoff team. You get Washington, and then you wrap up with Drew Lock / Tommy DeVito and Cooper Rush at home. So
yeah,
the Eagles are sitting pretty at that point, knock on wood. And if the Lions can lose this week, you're talking about them having to play the 49ers and the Vikings in 2 of the 3.
Niners need wins too.
So yeah, so it's this is the week for us to get to even ground. And let's see how the rest of this, the last 3 weeks of the season can be ran out, man. But to wrap up tonight's show,
yes, sir. We
ran a poll on the YouTube. It's in the comments. If you guys haven't voted already, you can head on over and cast your vote for who you think is going to win tonight. NFC West battle, Rams, Niners. Rams with a 1-game lead above the 49ers, fighting with the Seahawks for that division. Big matchup tonight. I know you said before the show you were leaning with Terry and her 49ers. Deebo Samuel's been in the media, Brock Purdy, the question marks. The last time I believe they played, I don't know if you said it. I think you said this to me. George Kittle kind of tore up the Rams. Is that correct?
I believe it was Juwan Jennings.
Juwan Jennings. That's what you were saying. Yeah. When we were talking about fantasy, that's right. So you have a big time matchup tonight, man. Who do you like and why?
Yeah, man. I do like the San Francisco 49ers in this one. It's more of a gut feeling, if anything. You look at this division, it's so tight, and it just feels like, yes, the Rams have a golden opportunity to kind of separate themselves from the 49ers and company. But I think this division is just that. It's tight, and it's going to stay that way. I think the Niners are going to get the win tonight. Ultimately, to even up these records and to get one step closer to Seattle, there's going to be opportunities down the stretch against Seattle where they can right their wrongs as well. So I look at these two teams tonight. You got the Rams coming off this huge W against the Buffalo Bills, the team that was running things out in the AFC, Josh Allen, the MVP candidate. And they were able to get that W, man. They didn't really stop the MVP, if you know what I mean. It was a 44-42 shootout. You got Matthew Stafford, who is a little bit older on a short week, so we'll see how they kind of navigate it. I just like San Fran at home. I like them in this matchup, man. They need it more, technically. And I just think this division has been so funky that, yes, the Rams, it feels like they picked up a ton of momentum last week. It feels right on par for the San Francisco 49ers to kind of bring them back down to earth. So, yeah, I do like the 49ers in this one. To answer your question, man, Jauan Jennings in that last matchup, by the way, in a loss to the Rams in LA, 27-24, 11 receptions, 175, and 3 touchdowns. So he did go off in that game. Doesn't look like Deebo Samuel played in that game.
I think you're right. No Ayuk and no. What was Ayuk out by now? No,
Ayuk was in that game. I can't remember when he tore his ACL though. Yeah. So
all right. Look,
interesting.
All signs should point to San Fran, right? These teams play twice a year. The first matchup, excuse me, the Rams got the better of them when they were all a little bit more healthy, although still be it no Christian McCaffrey. The Niners need it more to stay afloat, to stay alive, and give themselves a fighting chance over the last 3 weeks, with the Rams having a game in hand above them already. The Niners, before beating the Bears last week, I know both teams are coming off of a win, but the Niners kicked the shit out of the Bears. Before that, lost to 3 straight playoff teams.
Yeah.
The Rams coming off of that Bills humongous win, high scoring. There's just something about the injuries to San Francisco that I can't get behind them for some reason tonight. Like I don't have too much of a sway either way, but I'm looking at what Stafford and Kupp and Nacua and Kyren were able to do last week to the Bills. And I'm just thinking about all those injuries to the defensive side of the ball. And you have no Mason and no CMC, and now your third running back is questionable to play tonight. If he can even go, what does that look like? Can they run the ball? I know the Rams defense is nothing great. We watched that firsthand. But can they run the ball against LA? If they can't, can Purdy protect it? This is like one of those seasons from hell for Niners and Niners fans like Terry. It sucks. Like, I mean, it doesn't suck for me. I don't like that team, but it's just every week someone goes out for the year. Someone goes out for the year. Someone goes out for the year. And I just think the Rams are going to maybe carry their momentum into this one because it is a short week. I think could maybe play a little bit of a factor because you don't have to wait the full 7 days to get back to it. But I don't know. It's very tough.
Yeah, I don't know. I do view it differently, but we'll see. It is a close matchup nonetheless.
What's the spread?
It was 3 last time I checked, San Fran's way.
Yeah. So I mean, that's tough.
I guess it more speaks to me not really believing in the Rams. They're once again, they're a volatile team. They can put up some points. They can explode on any given week. They showed up at home against the Buffalo Bills and they ran the score up. I just think on a short week, you travel to San Fran. San Fran does technically need it more. We'll see, man. If all the grit is gone from San Fran, if they've lost all their grit,
yeah,
it'll be interesting.
So that's the one. Like they need it more. My question is, can you do anything about it at this point?
Yeah,
you have Kittle, you have Deebo, you have Jauan Jennings. Your quarterback's playing. This isn't like when they played the Packers. Like Purdy's there. I believe is Nick Bosa back. I think
so in this game.
So you have Fred like
it's
one
funny,
like
man.
You have pieces. Do you have enough? Is Puka Nacua going to go for 140 yards? Is Cooper Kupp going to
their last matchup offense? Kittle did not play as well. So it was Kittle and Debo that did not play in that last matchup
Right.
against the Rams.
And I think the Rams only beat them by what? 3 at home?
To be fair, the
Oh.
Rams did not have Puka, and it does not look like they had Cooper Kupp either. So to be fair.
All right, so that first game absolutely fucking sucked.
Yeah.
Let's hope we get a better one tonight. I think that is going to wrap this Thursday show up, man. Guys, if you're new to the channel, we appreciate you for tuning in. Vote on the poll for who you think is going to win tonight's game. We'll go over those tallies next week. Do us a favor, make sure to hit that follow button on the Twitter page, subscribe on the YouTube channel, and make sure to check out the DSM Philly YouTube channel as well. We'll be live there tomorrow around noon for the Faithful Fanatic show, talking Eagles, Steelers, talking Sixers, Pacers, talking Phillies, talking possibly Flyers. They have a matchup tonight against the Red Wings. So we'll see if the Philly sports teams can keep us in a positive light tomorrow, man. For myself, for Scotty, for DSM, have a great rest of your Thursday.
Yes, sir.